cut to our first slide. So our agenda today is looking at email marketing tools, how we can really level up our email marketing in 2025. As I've been going around the country and talking and kind of working with our email team, I've been finding a lot of opportunity. Grace as well. We've worked with our email specialist, which is an incredible team here at Bluetent, to kind of talk about how we can kind of next level stuff. We're going to be talking about distribution. I'm really looking at OTA management, frankly, differently than I probably would have said to you 6-8 months ago, and really seeing successes in how we can kind of plan around and leverage optimal distribution. And then we're going to talk about a few things to shake up your digital marketing. That includes some AI stuff. But yeah, we've got a quick 30 minutes here to just sort of to wrap. I always wish webinars, like I could see everybody and we could all just have a conversation with 100+ people, but that's not the reality. So Grace and I'll just talk to you.
Yeah. Do you want to jump in, Robyn?
Yeah, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, so I know we have a lot of people in here today, which is great. And I'm sure we've got some pretty varied levels of experience with email marketing. So as Robyn said, we just want to first touch on some email basics that you want to be mindful of no matter how in-depth your program is. And then in a little bit, we'll dive into trends that are going to be driving email marketing, becoming more critical as we move forward. But right off the bat, email authentication is now required. This is as of about a year ago, last winter, I think that this went into effect. And what this means is that there's basically an additional step before the email actually hits the inbox, where all emails sent need to have verification that the sender is in fact who they say they are and not somebody potentially trying to, impersonate the sender. So this is going to protect the recipient from things like scams or like phishing attempts or spam. And then for you, it's protecting your brand from impersonation. It's going to help your deliverability. So your emails are actually going to reach the inbox instead of ending up into the spam folder, and just building trust. Go ahead.
It'll also really protect you from potentially being exposed to getting blacklisted. So just specifically, anyone that wants to write this down, I don't think we put it in the slide, but I'm always happy to meet with people later. That's your DKIM records, your SPF records, and your DMARC records all need to be authenticated at the domain level so that really the email comes directly from you. If you're using a CRM or an email marketing platform like Campaign Monitor, MailChimp, et cetera, you need to authenticate those records. Super, super, super important.
Yeah. Thank you, Robyn, for explaining that. Next up, strategize. It's really important to create a strategy and just do your best to stick to it. That might look something as simple as pulling out a calendar and kind of identifying your holidays or any kind of local events that you want to make sure you're telling your audience about. And obviously, like all best laid plans, be prepared to have to potentially pivot at some point throughout the year. But starting off with a strategy is always good. Check your newsletter sign up. Hopefully this is displayed on your website in a prominent place, probably up in the main navigation. You might have a pop-up. However it is on there, make sure it works. Put an email in there and make sure that's actually getting added to your list. Next up, prune and groom your list regularly. We recommend doing this at least annually, and we use Campaign Monitor, which has something called engagement segments, and that does this. It kind of prunes lists for us on an ongoing basis. And what I mean by prune and groom is you're kind of combing out people who are not engaging with your emails. We call them ghosts or zombies, you might have heard them referred to as, but keeping your list clean is going to keep your open rates and your engagement rates higher.
Yeah, and then that kind of lays into strategy too, right? We do have those ghosts and zombies, those kind of sleeper cell guests that may not have engaged for a year because of whatever reason, but it's always great to have some strategy around re-engaging those people and bringing them back up into your active sender list.
Yeah, good point. Next up, get to the point. Keep your content short, scannable, actionable. Make sure you have a CTA up above the fold and that any of the CTAs in your email stand out. We're going to go into this a little bit more in a minute or two, but just attention spans in general are getting shorter. So make sure those emails are as direct and concise as possible. And then last, proof your work. This might sound really obvious, but especially with email, you get one chance. Once you hit send, you can't take that email back. So I encourage several rounds, several sets of eyes check your links. Even if you've had them in previous emails, make sure they're not broken and make sure they're going where you want them to. And then as part of that process, definitely check to make sure that your emails look good on mobile devices. We're going to talk about that in more detail here in just a minute, but the bottom line is you get into somebody's inbox, that's kind of a privilege. You don't want to abuse it. You don't want to spam them and email them too often. And what you send them, you just want to put your best foot forward, as often as you can.
Yep.
All right, so the trends that we want to focus on today, I just mentioned mobile friendly is just critical at this point in the email game. Segmentation, we're going to talk about why you want to segment your list and some different ways that you might be able to do it. And then automation, same thing. There's a lot that you can do with automation. We've got some things hopefully you're already doing, but some new ideas that you might want to think about. And companies that are paying attention to these trends are going to see like a marked improvement over competitors who are not doing this type of thing. So definitely pay attention here. We're going to jump right into mobile friendly. I mentioned this a minute ago. Over 60% of emails now are being opened and read on mobile devices. So it's critical that you are optimizing your emails for mobile. And this means a lot of different things. You might be familiar with the term responsive design. That's something that you see on websites, and the same goes for email as well. It basically means that when you open up an email, you're probably familiar with, well, we'll go into that in a minute, but basically, a desktop email is taking advantage of white space. With the mobile devices, those images are going to get stacked on top of each other. It's just a lot easier to digest the information. The images are bigger, the font sizes is bigger. But then keep in mind, as you're doing that, you have an email that looks like this. You're building it out now like this. It's going to start to get really long. So the next thing you want to think about with mobile friendly is keeping things short and sweet, just concise to the point. I mentioned this a minute ago. Make sure you've got the CTA up at the top, clear call to actions throughout, and what's next? Subject line, pre-header. Again, if you're opening your emails on your phone, you don't have a lot of room there. So you need to make sure that those subject lines are tight. And then dark mode. This is kind of new, something you might just starting to come across. Actually sent Robyn an email that I got a couple weeks ago in dark mode. What looked like it was a great email with a lot of great statistics and graphics, but I couldn't read it because there wasn't enough contrast between the background and the text. And it was obvious that it hadn't been optimized for dark mode. So it was a huge disappointment. So don't be that person. Generally with dark mode, just avoid super like black backgrounds. Use as much contrast as you possibly can. And we already talked about the CTA above the fold there. So Robyn, do you have anything to add with mobile friendly?
I think when we get into segmentation, it kind of checks some boxes on why we need to focus on being clear and concise. We're so used to trying to shove everything into one monthly email that's going out to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And so we get these novels of 52 units and all these different specials. But once we kind of figure out how we're going to segment to these people, then we realize that we can kind of cast a wider net of content, meaning we're sending focus properties to these individuals that have behaved this particular guest profile or this type of traveler. And so then we can really, again, have more breadth of sharing our inventory because we're targeting these different people. And it does, when we get into segmentation, I know initially it feels overwhelming, but once you get into a cadence and you see your segments, it's very easy to swap out that content and put the particular properties or particular special or event, whatever it is, of who you're talking to. So yeah, keep it short and concise. I mean, the amount of mobile bookings that we're seeing from emails, exactly, like whether it's cart abandonment emails or some of these automations that Grace will talk about, it's tremendous how many people do complete a reservation just right off their phone. So the call to action on those emails being right at the top and making them optimized is clutch.
Yep. Perfect. And this is just kind of demonstrating what we're talking about there. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with this email layout with the grid of homes, take up a lot of space. It's easy to scan on a desktop, but then you get onto a mobile device and it's much easier to see those units individually. So this is just kind of displaying what that looks like there. And we can jump right into segmentation, as Robyn mentioned. And basically, segmenting is when you take your larger list, you probably, depending on how many you have on there, it could be thousands, it could be tens of thousands, and you're going to break it into smaller lists. based on the booking behavior, the booking history that those guests have shown on your website previously. Segmentation allows you to target specific audiences based on their behavior and their booking history. An example of this would be if you want to send an email out about, we'll say like large homes or luxury homes, you probably want to target people who have stayed in a large home, maybe 6+ bedrooms or more, or maybe they've spent a certain dollar amount on a single transaction on your website. Those are the people that you're going to be ideally wanting to target. Same thing with like pet friendly. If you're doing a promotion about on pet fees or pet friendly homes, definitely want to make sure that you are targeting people who have stayed in a pet friendly home and have declared a pet previously.
Yeah, and it's a great way to, again, break up your inventory and get it in front of the right people. And I always kind of use the analogy, if I've stayed in a oceanfront condo with you for 5 years and the signature home on every email that you send me is a 10-bedroom, Gulf front, I don't want to stay there. It's clear that you don't know me as a guest. So it really does help that personalization and the building of trust, which is, again, we'll talk about targeting OTA guests, but that's how we really establish that the book direct, method is so much better for our guests, is because we are building and establishing that trust that we know who they are.
Yep, 100%. Just like you just mentioned, segmenting is going to increase the personalization experience for your guests and your users, which we all know is becoming really important now. Going to increase your open rates, your click-through rates, your engagement rates, not just in your emails, but on your website as well. Users are going to be less likely to unsubscribe from your list when you're feeding them relevant content on a consistent basis. And I said healthy lists don't burn out. And kind of what I mean by that is if you're hitting everybody with the same information constantly, you're going to start to see people drop out. But you could still send an email potentially. You could send an email once a week. But if you're sending them to different segments of your audience, then you're keeping those lists healthy and you're keeping those guests engaged, and you're not hitting them with stuff that they don't care about.
Right. And now we have such easy platforms and or marketing specialists on our team that can really help you build out the strategy around segmentation. Maybe it's home type, it would be successful, like condos, larger homes, 3-bedroom, smaller homes. Maybe it's luxury versus economy. Maybe it's pet friendly, family friendly, things like that. With reservation integration, which Bluetent has with multiple software systems, including Streamline, we can really look at all the reservation data coming back into our email platform and help you kind of figure out the right way to segment. And that also includes things like gap nights. Like we can use some of these revenue management tools like RevMax to understand where we have some weak parts in our season and set up a segment specifically for those types of travelers that are shorter booking windows or things like that.
Yeah. That's a good point. That actually leads us right into the next slide about automation. Look at you. So yeah, I said automation creates scalable relationships that feel human, which is what we all want here. So just like segmentation is becoming industry standard, so is automation. And you might also hear this referred to as lifecycle marketing. And this is when you're going to build out automated campaigns to kind of follow your guest's booking journey and keep them engaged with your brand and with your website throughout the year, probably, ideally. So you're doing all the work on the front end to create these campaigns, but then you can kind of set it and forget it. And those automated campaigns are going to continue to cultivate those relationships that are so important with your guests without you having to do any extra work. So automation is super exciting. Kind of listed some kind of basics here. If you're doing some automation already, you're probably doing some of these things. You've got booking abandonment, and that is, of course, if somebody has potentially put a unit into their cart on your website but hasn't completed the reservation, this automation will remind them to do that.
And we see tremendous amount of revenue from cart abandonment. Everything with automation to me is just free money. It's you set it and forget it. I mean, you want to go back and refresh content and make sure everything's stable and working, but it really is free money.
Yep. We all like free money. Reservation confirmation, and kind of a basic automation, but super important as well. Pre-arrival, not necessarily probably a revenue generator here, but certainly great for building out that relationship and building trust with your guests. You're giving them probably their key code. You might be feeding them maybe some like community events or some things that could be going on during their stay. I love seeing a weather forecast in there. I think that's such a great one.
Concierge services, that's a great way if the guest hasn't added, or you don't have the capability to add concierge services at the time of checkout. This is a great way to do that. The other thing with reservation confirmation is re-mentioning travel insurance. Again, travel insurance is a huge revenue generator, so make sure a call to action, like did you book, even a simple question, make sure that they have the opportunity to add travel insurance when they get their confirmation email.
That's a great call. During stay, email, SMS, anything that you might want to communicate to them during their stay. This is good for maybe sending them instructions about how to kind of pack up and leave the home, what to do with the laundry, if they need to load the dishwasher or anything like that. Or there could be something that comes up during their stay. We're going to talk about that kind of at the next level section. But just having a way to communicate automatically with all of your guests at once and not having to call them. If you've been doing property management for more than 5 or 10 years, you've definitely had to do that. Post-departure, here, of course, you're thanking them for their stay. You're hopefully asking them for a review and hopefully asking them to book again, to rebook for the same time next year or at a future date. So I'm going to call those basics. There's still great ways to kind of generate revenue. But if you really want to punch things up, you could do a booking anniversary automation, which is going to remind the guest that, this time the previous year they booked their reservation, or maybe it's coinciding with their arrival day or something like that. Upsells, Robyn mentioned the travel insurance. If they might not have done that when they initially completed their reservation, you could remind them to do it there. You could talk about early arrivals or late checkouts. Or I know people sometimes try to do like beach equipment or any kind of rental equipment that might be available. This is incremental revenue that, as Robyn said, is basically free because you're automatically sending this email. You're not doing anything, but you're able to capture some additional revenue very easily. Along with that is the gap night notification that she mentioned. And I absolutely love this automation because I remember also doing this manually, and it was hilarious initially. But now that we can do this automatically, it's just incremental revenue falling into your account. And this kind of became more popular as some of the more, maybe the larger destinations started shifting away to like the set, Saturday to Saturday booking. As dates started to get more flexible, we did start to see more gap nights on either side of those reservations that were not booked. So it's much easier.
Some people would call that an extend your stay. So that's really just give your guests the opportunity to stay an extra night. And now again, with revenue management tools and reservation integration, we can quickly identify what properties do have the ability to extend a stay a night and offering them a discount. It's a great service to offer your guests. Certainly late checkout is a big one too. Yeah, urgency and emergency notifications. These are for sure something you need to have in place. That's if you need to notify your guests of any weather or things like that. And then any kind of things that they need to know about the property at the last minute, just being able to have that template set up and ready to go. Rate change notifications, those are driven from the website. So this is like transactional revenue. If I search for a unit and I know I want it, but it's not available for my dates, I can sign up for a rate change notification. We're seeing a lot of revenue out of this. The guest gets an email if the rate has changed, or if the unit has opened up, that would be a cancellation notification. So both of those things are driven. And then homeowner acquisition automations for sure, basically building a pipeline. Some of you are using sophisticated CRMs, which can do this, which I totally encourage, but there's pretty simple ways to do it as far as getting absentee owner data out of the MLS and starting to feed this automation, which might be 3 to 4 touch point emails with your value proposition, why join our program, benefits to joining our program. That would and then you just kind of continually pump that automation full of new potential owners, and then kind of continually manage that pipeline as you do it. But spending a lot of time talking about owner acquisition and building that into your marketing strategy. Don asked how many automations is too many. Really, I don't think there is such a thing as too many automations, as long as you're not putting everybody into every automation, right? There's automations that are specific for different traveler profiles, different owner acquisitions, things like that. So it's, you can start building out a list of things that you would want to automate, like owner acquisition, and then just remember that needs to be treated as such. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, distribution. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We are seeing a big uptick for sure. Bluetent is a marketing agency. We have marketing specialists across the board. We've got website development team, but we also have a distribution tool called ResFusion Boost. Boost has come a long, long way since its inception. It's become a very, very dominant player in the space. We're really proud of the product. And what we've seen here, Boost increased its revenue, meaning dollars that were flowing through from distribution channels, by at least $10 million between 2023 and 2024. So there's a significant amount of revenue that flows through Boost back to our property managers. And I think our mindset has shifted around OTAs as really treating them as a marketing channel. So I think 2 years ago or even a year ago, I might have said like, oh, we got to focus on book direct and save. We don't want to be on OTAs, but it's really just, again, casting a net, getting more opportunity for new travelers and to bring them into your house. So the shift here is really being responsible for treating those OTA guests a little differently than your direct booking guests, because you need to really work extra hard to build their trust and get them to book direct. And that's just really leveling up your marketing. But we need to make sure that our units are optimized for OTAs so that they're ranking higher on OTAs. So that's a practice that should be really looked at quarterly, chunking out your units and massaging, making sure your photos are in the right order, making sure that your descriptions are clean and crisp, really auditing what your listings look like. Then some of the OTAs do give us emails, but there's other ways to get those email addresses. One thing that I think is kind of a easy way is to just have a QR code in the unit for guests to scan, give them an incentive like a beach ball or something that's, small that you could keep on stock, and have them scan it and give them your email address. And then it's our responsibility again to create and nurture that brand, communicate your value proposition. Why is it better to book direct and stay? Don't be afraid to let them know that they spent more money than they needed to because they booked on OTAs. So that's really kind of, at least my mindset shift, is treating it like a marketing channel, because it does cost us more money to book on OTAs. For us as property managers, or not me particularly, but for property managers, it's a little more work. So we might as well put in the effort to have things in place to capture that guest information, take it to the next level to build trust with them and communicate your value proposition, versus your repeat guests probably don't need that because they've stayed with you for 5 years. They know the jam, they know when they check in, they know your team potentially, but your OTA people are kind of little baby ducks, and they need to be sort of steered in the right direction on the book direct philosophy. And we're almost at the half hour, so I lied. We tried to keep this to a half hour, but we're yapping. So my play with distribution, as long as the channel is working for you, continually add new channels. There's a lot of new players out there, Whimstay, Vacay My Way, a lot of guys that are building really good OTAs that I do think will pick up some steam. Whimstay is for like that shorter booking window, which I'm sure everyone on this meeting saw a lot of that shift in 2024. And so we really want to focus on that traveler profile, millennials, whatever you want to call it, Gen Z, I guess, that are they're traveling, they're working remote, they're able to make last minute decisions on their vacation. So they're checking out and booking 3 weeks in advance versus 3 to 4 months in advance, like we were more used to. So those kind of distribution channels will help with a lot of gap nights or weak seasons that you're seeing. And then be accountable for your OTAs. It's not a set it and forget it. Like, we really need to audit and improve our inventory, because they're really looking at stuff, and there's a ton of saturation from individual hosts out there. And we want to make sure that we're not forgetting about units or forgetting about certain parts of our inventory, because we're competing against a lot of individual hosts as well. Shake up your digital marketing. Got a couple questions. I'm going to answer a couple questions before you get started. So we were asked, yes, we do have a direct integration with Marriott Homes and Villas and Booking.com. Julian, I can talk with you separately about our new Booking.com direct connection through Boost on Streamline. You might be interested in a couple things that are a little bit different there. Katie, how does Bluetent help when we strictly book direct? Well, I'd love to just talk to you about what you're doing today and maybe go through some of your analytics. And we'll be offering up strategy sessions at the end of this. And that would be a good time to get Grace or myself or Ashley on the phone, and we can kind of talk through, everybody's different. What you have for tracking might be different. So we really need to just look at your individual company and develop a strategy and talk about where we see some holes or some revenue opportunities. And that's why we're doing these, is so that we can connect with you guys individually too. Shake up your digital marketing, Grace.
Okay, well, first we're going to just touch base on AI. Do you want me to start?
No, I'll talk about it. So I did put this in sort of a more random spot, but more that both BizCore and Bluetent are rolling out some really cool AI tools that we will be sharing more and more of as they develop. But what AI means to us as marketers is definitely a game changer. I think I have another slide on it here too, but the way we're leveraging it on the website side of the house is really transforming the search experience. So we've got these large language models that can basically intent type search. So I could type in, I'm coming in July with my dog and I want to stay on the beach, versus the traditional date picker search that we've seen. Marriott rolled out a version of their intent-based search as well. And so we're rolling those tools out on the website front. And then on the back end of the website, we build all of our sites on content management platforms. On the back end of the sites, we're incorporating AI into content. Yeah, so to help you do blog development, description development. It's really not, again, it's not a set it and forget it. We always want you to humanize that copy, but it's a great way for those of us like me that sometimes struggle with inspiration. We can leverage those content tools on the back end of the website, or in software. Streamline has an AI feature as well to really help us do content development. And then you can humanize it and make sure that it's optimized for search engine optimization. Operational efficiencies. What I've been doing myself is I train different prompts in ChatGPT. I do the $20 a month paid version, and I have different prompts that help me with specific things. And so when I look at how you guys operate, it's review responses, it's maintenance requests, it's owner.
Could help with segmentation too, because you probably want to speak to your audiences a little bit differently.
Yeah, my luxury guests. Help me write an email for my luxury guests. Help me write
translation. I love translation. I think that's awesome.
And translation too. If you have a lot of, non-English speaking guests that come, that AI can absolutely help you do that. So operational efficiencies, I've seen it, especially in the review space, content generation, owner communications, things like that. It's pretty tremendous, but just make sure that you're using different prompts, because they get smarter and smarter. So you can't just ask one prompt to be everything to everyone. Try to break it up into different sections of your business, and that then they'll learn even faster. What not to do, just straight up never ever import your guest data into AI. That's probably pretty simple, and you just want to be really careful about that. The other thing not to do is don't ever post anything on your website that has not been humanized as from a content perspective. Be very careful about the images that AI might spit out to you. That's not a great best practice to rely on AI for accuracy and things like that. And always just kind of watch your work, never just solely rely on it. But we are excited to bring these tools out. They're looking really, really good. We've got a really smart team working on that development. And then I put in how to protect your guests. Again, that just really goes back to never put guest information, never put a database in there. You can use blogs and documents or different types of information, let's say like earnings reports or things like that, to train your AI bots. But as long as that doesn't have personal information in it, that's the only thing to be careful of. So yeah, reach out to us if you want to talk about AI, because we got a lot going on.
For sure.
So,
okay.
Mini audit.
Let's see. We have questions popping up here.
Oh, we do.
Time for mini audit. Okay. I'm going to try to go fast here because I know we're running out of time. So first off, you definitely want to ask, do you have a marketing strategy, or are you just kind of winging it? If not, this is definitely something that we can work with you on. And if you have a strategy, who's driving your strategy? Do you have a team or somebody on your team who is kind of in charge of that? And what's the process? What's the plan? How often are you guys sitting down and talking about your marketing strategy? Next, have you adjusted your marketing strategy over the course of the past few years as this industry has evolved? We all know that 2024 did not look anything like 2021 or 2022. So hopefully your marketing did not look the same. And that's going to be the same moving forward. As things are shifting, you want to make sure that you're pivoting and kind of being flexible as things are going to keep just changing faster and faster. Will homeowner acquisition be a part of your strategy in 2025? We are hearing a lot of this after the last few years. There have been, just some shifts within the industry, and it sounds like people are definitely going to be going after new homeowners. So if this is part of your strategy, how are you going to do it? Do you have a business development team on staff? Are you going to rely on PPC? Are you relying on an email strategy? What does that look like for you?
And I think
Go ahead.
there's certainly tools to outsource owner acquisition that are really healthy parts, but sometimes that can't really be in the fold. I think I just want to give people confidence that you are absolutely capable of a homeowner acquisition strategy. It really does not pivot that much further from your direct booking strategy. In fact, oftentimes the two overlap. If you're looking at different channels that you're participating in from a marketing angle, you'll see overlap from owner acquisition. So you're absolutely capable of setting up an owner acquisition strategy and getting all of your marketing channels to align to getting new inventory into your program. I'm happy to talk to people about that too.
And some of the things that we talked about in terms of segmentation and automation are really exciting to homeowners. So if you're already doing that, definitely be talking to your homeowners about that because that'll get them jazzed. Number 4, is the content on your website fresh and current? I know sometimes we focus a lot on building out new content or adding to your blogs or whatever, but make sure that you're going back, doing a little mini audit of your landing pages and the content that's already on the website, and make sure that it's still relevant, it's still fresh, and it looks good. Number 5, has your inventory evolved? Do you have new niches emerging? I know tiny homes are starting to pop up all over the Outer Banks. So that's something that could be new, or I don't know, you can probably name 10 of them, Robyn, but
That also leans into, has your traveler profile evolved too?
for
Because
sure.
you're going to want to get some different inventory based on, what properties have been popular, what kind of new travelers are you seeing visiting your destination. So it's just kind of having awareness around that.
That's such a great point. Yeah, I know a lot of destinations have their kind of main demographic is aging out. So great point. Do you have new competitors in your area, or are any of your competitors' strategies changing that could offer an opportunity for your brand? We're seeing a lot of it out there, mergers, acquisitions, just new faces in the crowd. And as that happens, those can be scary, or you can look for ways to talk about your own value propositions in a way that maybe stacks up better. So just if any of those things are happening, it's probably a great time to maybe sit down with us, talk about a new strategy and how we might be able to help.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of our team, I saw a question, I think someone on our team answered it already, but yeah, we've got a wide range of strategic thinkers, marketing specialists, really talented folks over here. And we've really kind of blended our DMS side of the house to really pull strengths out of these folks that are at Bluetent. And so it's really tremendous that when you do engage with us, we can kind of sit down and really help you drive more revenue, look for new opportunity. So we're here. So yeah, we are happy to do these mini audits. You can take a little quiz here about your marketing strategy that Ashley and Grace put together. And then step 2, after that, you can schedule some time with us. So I'll be on the road a little bit, but Ashley's great. And Drew's saying the link doesn't work, Ashley, on the QR, so we might have to update it. But Drew, we'll get that fixed and we'll send this out right away to everybody that attended or couldn't attend. Sorry about that. I wonder what happened. I guess I didn't test it myself. Oh, Stephanie says it does work. Let's try. Oops.
Mine worked.
Yeah, mine worked. Drew, I will send you the link directly to the Survey Monkey. But thanks everyone. Again, I'll be in Miami next week for IMN. I hope anyone here can make it, or fill out the form and we can connect anytime. But I appreciate it. We hope to see you again very, very soon. And thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thanks, Robyn. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, thanks, Grace. Thanks, Ashley. Bye.